Close your eyes and imagine a world where 15 million souls were never ripped from their homes, where the Atlantic Ocean never became a graveyard, where the word cotton doesn't carry the weight of blood. This isn't just an alternate history. This is a mirror, showing us who we became because of what we did. And the reflection is almost unrecognizable. What you're about to discover will challenge everything you thought you knew about the modern world. Because without slavery, there might be no America as we know it, no industrial revolution, no global capitalism. And that's just the beginning. Stay with me, because in 3 minutes, I'll reveal the one invention that would never exist without slavery, and it's in your pocket right now. 1441, Portuguese sailors land on the West African coast. In our world, this moment began a horror that would last 400 years. But in our alternate timeline, they simply trade. Gold for goods, knowledge for knowledge. No chains, no middle passage. The question is, what happens next? The Kingdom of Congo remains intact. The scholars of Timbuktu continue their work undisturbed. The Asante Empire grows stronger. But here's where it gets disturbing, because while Africa flourishes in this timeline, Europe faces a crisis it never solved. The crisis that would change everything. And the solution they found is more terrifying than you think. Without enslaved Africans, the European colonies in the Americas are failing. Tobacco rots in Virginia. Sugar cane withers in the Caribbean. The Spanish silver mines in Peru stand silent. European indentured servants die by the thousands. Malaria, yellow fever, exhaustion. The colonial experiment is collapsing. Here's the twist history doesn't want you to see. In our timeline, slavery delayed the Industrial Revolution in the American South. Slave labor was so profitable, plantation owners had no reason to mechanize. But without slavery, the pressure to innovate becomes desperate. By the 1750s, 50 years earlier than in our world, Europe is forced to mechanize everything. The steam engine isn't a novelty, it's survival. But here's what keeps historians awake at night. The machine that replaces human hands creates a different kind of hell. Industrial labor in Europe explodes. Child labor, 16-hour shifts. Factory towns where life expectancy is 28. The exploitation doesn't disappear, it just wears a different face. Working-class Europeans become the expendable labor force. The suffering simply changes location. Meanwhile, the Americas develop completely differently. Without plantation agriculture dominating the South, small independent farms spread. Immigration patterns shift. More Europeans, yes, but also free Africans arriving as traders, not captives. By 1800, the demographic map of North America is almost unrecognizable. Remember that invention I mentioned? The one in your pocket? It's time. Cotton. In our timeline, enslaved labor made cotton so cheap, so abundant, it became the foundation of textile mass production. Those textile factories in Britain, they funded the banking systems that created modern capitalism. That capital, it built railroads, telegraph systems, eventually, microchips. The iPhone you're holding has an ancestor that was picked by enslaved hands. But without that cheap cotton, does the digital revolution still happen? Possibly. But decades later, maybe centuries. Some economists argue that global capitalism itself, the system that connects every corner of the planet, only emerged because slavery created unprecedented wealth concentration. The richest Americans in 1860? Slave owners. The richest families in Britain? Cotton merchants. Without that capital accumulation, does globalization as we know it exist? Here's the uncomfortable truth. Our modern world was built on a foundation of suffering. Remove that foundation, and the entire structure changes. Not necessarily for better, not necessarily for worse, just different. But technology isn't the deepest loss. There's something else, something that shaped the soul of modernity. No slavery means no forced diaspora, which means no jazz, no blues, no rock and roll, no hip-hop, no Toni Morrison, no James Baldwin, no Maya Angelou. The cultural contributions of African Americans, forged in the crucible of oppression, vanish from this timeline. And what replaces it is a silence so profound, it echoes through everything. African cultures develop in their homelands, undisturbed, unbroken. But the hybrid culture, the fusion of African resilience and American experience, never emerges. The civil rights movement, which inspired liberation struggles worldwide, never happens, because the specific injustice it fought never existed. Nelson Mandela cited Martin Luther King Jr. The Dalai Lama studied the tactics of the Freedom Riders. The blueprint for nonviolent resistance, created by people who survived slavery's descendants, shaped modern democracy. Remove that struggle, and global freedom movements lose their most powerful playbook. So here's the question we've been avoiding. Would the world be better without slavery? In our timeline, the legacy of slavery persists. Wealth gaps, mass incarceration, systemic racism, health disparities. The wound never fully healed because we never applied the medicine. 40 acres and a mule, promised, never delivered. Reparations, discussed, never paid. The alternate timeline avoids 400 years of horror, but what does it create instead? The answer might be more disturbing than the question, because humans don't stop exploiting humans just because one avenue closes. In our alternate world, European powers intensify colonialism in Asia. The scramble for Africa happens differently, not for slaves, but for resources. India's subjugation deepens. China faces harsher imperialism. The suffering doesn't disappear. It relocates. It transforms. It finds new victims. This is the darkest lesson. Slavery wasn't an aberration. It was an expression of something deeper, humanity's capacity to commodify other humans. Remove one expression, and that capacity finds another outlet. The names change, the locations shift, but the fundamental cruelty persists. But there's something this thought experiment reveals, something precious. In our timeline, this timeline, the one we actually live in, millions of people exist who wouldn't in the alternate world. Every descendant of enslaved Africans in the Americas, every person with that heritage in their blood. Their ancestors survived the unsurvivable. And from that survival came life, came music, came genius, came resistance, came beauty so powerful it changed the world. The alternate timeline avoids the wound. But our timeline created the healers, the leaders, the artists who turned pain into transcendence. You can't decide which world is better, because both contain unbearable truths. What if slavery never existed? The world would be unrecognizable. But here's what we know for certain. Slavery did exist. It shaped everything. The economy, the culture, the political systems, the technology, the very concept of race itself, invented to justify the unjustifiable. You can't erase it from history. You can only decide what you do with its legacy. The question isn't what if slavery never existed. The question is, what are we building now from the ashes of what was?